What's up everybody? I'm Jen from Valley Buzzsaw. In today's video, I'm going to show you how I refinished this personal chalkboard wall. The first thing I need when I start any project is one of my canvas drop cloths. They're great for catching paint and dust and debris, easy to shake out, and certainly absorbent as compared to plastic or just letting paint hit your floor. Next up, the various materials I will need for this particular project. I've got my trusty Tupper rubber plastic container here, and I'm just going to start clearing stuff off of the chalkboard. So now it's time to wipe everything down, and I'm going to use my microfiber tack cloth to do that job. Sometimes a second pass is necessary, so we're on pass 2. I like to start on the opposite side and then work my way that way. That way I started here and worked here, but now I start here and work there, so it's more even. Now that everything is just about fully dry after wiping down with the microfiber tack cloth, I can see that there are a few areas here, where it didn't entirely remove everything. I'm going to do one more pass, and then I'm going to make sure that I let everything dry fully before I come back in with the painter's tape for the wood. That way I can start scuffing up this chalkboard surface. Just want to take a quick break here to point out a couple of areas where it's kind of a disaster on this thing, and one of the reasons why I'm doing this reboot of our chalk paint. So that is actually a gouge in the finish, which unfortunately does go all the way down to the drywall mud, so I'm going to have to make sure that I'm extra special cautious with that while doing this finish. But you can see, hopefully things will focus. But you can see here on the surface that it's not so great right now. It just looks old and crusty, kind of a mess. Even after cleaning it, it's still just dull. We use this thing like pretty much every single day, so this finish is definitely not optimal anymore. I turned off the camera, I came back in on this lower edge and I put on a second row of tape. There was a little bit of the wood showing, so I just didn't want that to end up getting paint like jobs flying at it. I didn't want to have to sand that down at all. So now that everything is finished, adhered, and burnished down at the edges, I'm gonna get with sanding. Take that microfiber tack cloth, very dry, somewhat damp, but almost completely dry, just in case if you have little spots like I do on here. You can see that there's a little area here where the drywall is coming through from the surface. It was a little bit of a raised area, And when you're wiping down all of this dust so that you can get a really good smooth finish, you just want to make sure not to douse or soak any of those kind of areas that come through. Now that the dust is thoroughly wiped away, and I went over this 2 or 3 times until my microfiber cloth did not come up with anything coming off of the surface. But now that it's done, it's time to get with the fun part. This is my favorite, of course, because you get to actually put on the finish. One of my favorite things about this American Crafts chalkboard paint is the fact that it's odorless, it comes completely ready to use, and as it says here on the side, it's non-toxic, and it works on wood, paper, etc., which basically means that here on the top of the drywall underneath it and the paint that's here, we're going to have no problem for this to adhere to the surface. We're going to mix up this chalkboard paint right now, right before we put on the application. I'll pour that here into the tray and then just start applying with the foam brush. Make sure you work in thin, even coats. You don't want to go too thick because you can always put on a second coat, but if you have drips that start forming after you've put on the first coat, you're kind of SOL. You're going to end up having to sand it down again and do all that wiping again and all of that stuff, and nobody wants to do the work twice. So just make sure that you are going in thin, even, smooth coats. Here's how. Coat is complete. Now, something that a lot of painters will tell you, and this is because it's a good tip, is to peel your tape off as soon as you're done painting. That way the paint doesn't cure to the tape and you have a nice, clean, even removal edge. However, I'm going to caution you against doing that this time because trying to line up the tape to the exact place that you were when going against this wood is going to be almost impossible when you come back tomorrow to do your second coat. Because of that, when you come back and do your second coat, I'll give you a little quick tip tomorrow when we come back. That's going to be like 30 seconds for you, but it's going to be 24 hours for me. So the tip I'll give you today instead is how to deal with all of this leftover paint. So let's take a quick jaunt out to the extremely hot garage and I'm going to show you exactly how I get rid of this paint. If you are using a roller, I highly recommend getting yourself one of these. It's a 14-in-1, sometimes called a 5-in-1, depending on the various functions. Mine, as you can tell, has been used and loved a lot. Anyway, when you're taking paint off of a roller, you'll want to use this little carved out cutout here. You scrape down the side of the roller and it puts the paint back into the tray. In this particular instance, because we used a foam brush, I don't really have the ability to use this 14-in-1, so we're just going to use the brush itself to do the job for us. Remove the cap. Then what you want to do, take your tray and line up a corner with the mouth of the jar. Take your brush and push the paint down into the larger part of the tray. That'll get as much out of the top as possible. Push down the sides and then direct it into one corner. Once it's in that corner, tilt it up on top of your can or jar and let it run in. This paint is really thick, so it's not maybe the best example of how to do this. Also, if I moved my arm, you'd be able to see it. That would be great. Pushing into the corner until the bulk of that paint is out of your paint tray. Then instead of taking the chance that it will drip everywhere, I scrape off the side and then come in with the paintbrush. Let's see if the camera can pick this up. And scrape flat. That's going to get all the paint that you can out of that foam roller. On a can with a large mouth, you'll want to do this on the side. But on a small jar mouth like this, you can just do it right into the paint tray. Then take that paint again, and pull out the corner. That's going to get the max amount of paint out of your paint tray that you can, and yeah, you kind of can do it here. Running flat over that jar mouth surface. Scraping as much paint out of the foam roller as possible. That way you either have it for your next project or just to ensure that it doesn't go down the drain. However, you can see this now. Not super. Let's get a microfiber rag. The same one that I used before. This one is dry now today. You just want to take that and run it across the top of the jar. Putting good pressure, but not so much pressure. And you can see all of that would have got stuck in the cap had I not done this. Now, with that surface clean, or at least as clean as it'll get right now with dried paint still on there, you can take the cap and put it back on and not run any risk of the cap sticking to the inside of the surface. Something I like to do when I'm rinsing out is, in order to get all the paint out of the paint tray, I like to use the brush to give me a helping hand with that. I like to run a real hot water down the sink after I use any kind of paint like this, especially a really quick drying kind of paint. I spray down my slop sink and I just let the water run as hot as it possibly goes, which here, unfortunately, is about 180 degrees, so be very, very careful during this step. Then I just hit the cold water just in case I need to wash my hands right now and I don't want to burn myself. Welcome back to day 2 of Chalkboard Refinishing. I am in the same outfit as yesterday, but I figured you can't smell me through the TV, so it's really no big deal. Anyway, through the magic of YouTube, this has only been like a couple of minutes for you, but I did wait overnight in order to come back and follow the instructions to the letter on the back of our chalkboard paint. Yesterday, I told you guys I was going to give you a little tip as to why you don't want to pull the tape off after the first coat, and we're going to get into that right now. Pulling the tape after your first coat sounds like a great idea, but then what you're going to need to do is retape for your second coat. Not cool. Why waste the tape? I unfortunately left this off of the original materials list, and I will flash that picture up right here. However, you're going to want to get yourself a really good utility blade with a razor blade that is perfectly brand new, because the sharper it is, the better this is going to all go. You want something with a super, super sharp corner. I'm not going to touch the blade part, but you can see this corner here, not dulled, not chipped off. The reason that you want it to be super, super, super sharp is because you're going to come in and score this line. Now, Scoring is basically just running that razor blade very slowly, very methodically and carefully along the line of the tape where it meets your other surface. The reason we want to do that before the second coat is because then as soon as you put on the second coat, you can pull that tape right off and it'll be as if you had pulled the tape off after the first coat. You don't waste any extra tape and you're left with a super clean, crisp line that looks like you applied tape twice in the exact same place. Very gently. Now that I finished scoring around all of those tape edges, it's time to get with the second coat. Let's go. My light that's over here that's helping to illuminate me right now, and I'm going to illuminate the surface to make sure that there aren't any holidays. Holidays are when the paint breaks through from the surface underneath and you can see it on the top coat surface. Let's do it. Okay, the good news is there aren't any obvious areas where anything is coming through, so I think our second coat has solidified this deal and it is done. Now, as I explained before, you want to pull that tape pretty much right away, especially because this is a really fast drying paint, so in order to make sure it doesn't cure and cause any of those problems, we're going to pull the tape right now. Perfect pull. Hey everybody, I just wanted to break back in at the end here because I wanted to show you a little issue that I had with this chalkboard paint refinish. First of all, let me just say that I was a professional painter for 7 years, ran my own faux finishing business, and this kind of thing can happen literally to anyone, no matter how well you prepare, no matter how good of a job that you actually do. You can have screw ups. So let's see if we can, get my crazy face out of there. Hopefully you can see that there in the corner, and I'm so sorry, this is my phone and it may be a little janky and shaky, but that white spot right there, that is the plaster coming through from the underneath. What happened is when I came in with the scoring knife to score along that line, I'm short and I wasn't doing it right because I was trying to do things for film, and I jumped up here just on my tippy toes and tried to score that line. Bad, bad, bad. Take my mistake and don't make that mistake. Get right up under your line, because what I ended up doing is coming out slightly from the line where the wall and the trim meet, and it ended up cutting the tape, which was great. That's what I wanted, but not in the right place. So it ended up pulling a whole bunch of the final finish off right there in that spot. So what I'm gonna have to do is get in there with an artist brush and some of the chalkboard paint and just dot it in and make sure that it's a seamless finish. The good news is that I'm way short, and I mean, no one's ever gonna draw like directly on this very tiny little corner in here, at least they aren't now. So I'm gonna do all of that, but I'm gonna do that off camera, and so the next thing that you're gonna see from me here are the beauty shots. If you're interested in seeing a video or even a series of videos on some different painting tips and tricks, like the scoring along the tape line before the second coat or anything like that, leave me a comment down below. That way I'll know and I can start filming some more videos like that. thank everybody so much for watching. I had a great time doing this project, and if I do say so myself, it turned out pretty fantastic. So if you think it turned out fantastic, hit that like button, and please, please consider subscribing. Both of those things help our channel to grow, and we really appreciate it a lot. You'll also want to hit your notification bell and turn that to all. That way you'll be notified every time I upload a new video. Once you're done over here, head on over to valley-buzz.com for even more DIY home renovation projects, and get on out there and tackle a DIY project of your own. Later, warriors. Let's cut all this out. We'll start over. Why? It's really hot under these lights too. Now that the sand is, no, what I told you I was gonna tell you yesterday, no, I can't today. Let's get this together. Come on. Non-scripted means I have no idea what I'm saying, which means I'm probably gonna get a lot of bloopers out of it. No, I'm gonna look like this. Ah.